things only spiritually awake people go through. The great philosopher Rumi once said, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." If you've been feeling like an outsider in your own life lately, or if the things that once brought you comfort now feel strangely empty, you aren't losing your mind, you're finding your soul. Welcome back to Spiritual Wisdom, where today we are diving deep into the unique, often challenging experiences that only spiritually awake people go through. This journey isn't just about finding peace. It's about the courage to deconstruct who you were to become who you are meant to be. I want this to be a conversation. So as we go through these signs, which one resonates with your journey the most right now? Let me know in the comments below, and let's support each other as we grow. 1. Genuine experience versus intellectual concept. True spirituality is far removed from the passive act of reading philosophy or collecting esoteric beliefs. Instead, it is a visceral, fundamental shift in consciousness that vibrates at a cellular level. When a person undergoes a genuine spiritual awakening, they are not merely adopting a new perspective, but are experiencing a structural reorganization of their entire being. This profound transition is what Carl Jung identified as a lived psychological transformation, an event that cannot be faked, forced, or willed into existence by the ego's desires. It is as if an internal dam finally breaks after years of silent pressure, occurring only when an individual reaches a specific, sacred inner threshold where the old self can no longer contain the expanding truth of the soul. To illustrate this, consider the metaphor of a traveler who has spent years studying maps of a distant land. No matter how many details they memorize, the intellectual concept of the terrain is pale and lifeless compared to the moment their feet actually touch the soil and their lungs breathe the mountain air. This is the difference between knowing the word light and being blinded by its radiance. As this process unfolds, the seeker realizes that intellectualizing divinity is like trying to quench a thirst by reading the chemical formula for water that provides no true nourishment. The shift is so deep that it bypasses the analytical mind, rooting itself in the very marrow of one's bones and altering the nervous system's response to reality. Jung's wisdom reminds us that this is not a performance for others to witness, but an involuntary ripening of the psyche that demands total surrender. This evolution is often compared to the alchemy of gold, where the base metals of our social conditioning and borrowed identities are melted down in the heat of direct experience to reveal a core that is incorruptible. There is a specific gravity to this change that separates the hobbyist from the truly awakened. The former talks of the path, while the latter is consumed by it. Transitioning from the theoretical to the experiential requires a person to cross a point of no return where the safety of knowing about spirituality is traded for the raw, sometimes terrifying reality of living it. In this state, one begins to understand that the universe is not a collection of objects to be studied, but a living presence to be felt within the chest. Every quote once memorized from a book suddenly takes on a three-dimensional weight, turning from a sentence into a heartbeat. The seeker no longer asks for proof of the divine because they have become the evidence, vibrating at a frequency that naturally sheds the illusions of the material world. It is a lonely but magnificent metamorphosis, where the silence of the inner world becomes more vocal and certain than the loudest voices of society. By reaching this threshold, the individual moves beyond the limits of the human intellect and steps into a vast, wordless intelligence that has been waiting patiently behind the veil of the ego. This is the hallmark of those who are truly awake. They do not just possess wisdom. They have been hollowed out and rebuilt by it, ensuring that every thought, action, and breath is an extension of a truth that was lived, not just learned. Do you feel this awakening in your soul? Comment with faith. I am no longer just seeking. I am experiencing the divine. 2. Reality as symbolic communication. As you deepen your commitment to spiritual development, you will begin to notice a profound shift in how you perceive the world, moving away from the belief that life is a series of random accidents and toward the realization that reality itself is a sophisticated form of symbolic communication. This transformation is one of the most significant experiences that spiritually awake people go through, where the universe stops feeling like a silent, cold vacuum and starts functioning as a living, breathing language designed specifically for your personal growth. You no longer see a bird landing on your windowsill at a pivotal moment or a recurring sequence of numbers as mere chance. Instead, you recognize these occurrences as direct, tailored messages that resonate with your current state of being. This heightened state of spirituality allows you to read the patterns and inherent meaning already present in the fabric of existence, a phenomenon known as synchronicity that acts as a cosmic compass for your soul. You are not merely interpreting symbols after the fact or projecting your own desires onto your surroundings, but rather you are participating in a real-time dialogue with the divine, where every event, object, or so-called coincidence carries a specific weight and purpose. When you embrace this level of awareness, you understand the powerful truth that the world is a mirror, and whatever you see out there is a reflection of what is happening inside you, reminding you that your external reality is constantly whispering truths about your internal landscape. This way of living demands that you move beyond the surface level of material existence and dive into the depths of symbolic meaning, where a simple conversation with a stranger might hold the exact words you need to hear to solve a long-standing problem. As your awareness progresses, this reading of reality becomes second nature, and you find yourself moving through life with a sense of wonder and curiosity rather than fear or confusion. You begin to appreciate that synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see. And as your vision clears, the complexity of this cosmic language becomes increasingly beautiful and intricate. By recognizing that reality is a constant stream of information meant to guide you, you step out of the role of a passive observer and into the role of an active participant in your own evolution. This experience belongs to those who have cleared the clutter of the ego to hear the subtle frequencies of the universe, ensuring that every step you take is aligned with a much larger, more magnificent plan. As you navigate this path, remember that the universe is not outside of you. Look inside yourself. Everything that you want, you already are, which underscores the idea that these external symbols are simply keys to unlocking the wisdom already stored within your heart. 3. Perceiving the unconscious of others. As you journey deeper into the path of awakening, you will find that your perception of reality undergoes a radical transformation, moving far beyond the five physical senses into a realm of profound spiritual wisdom. One of the most startling experiences you will encounter is the sudden ability to sense the psychological atmosphere of every room you enter and every person you meet. You are no longer distracted by the practiced smiles or the rehearsed scripts people use to navigate society. Instead, you begin to feel the weight of what lies beneath their surface. It is as if you have developed a specialized internal sonar that detects the shadow material of others, those secret wounds, buried lies, and ancestral patterns that they desperately try to hide from the world and often from themselves. This is not a parlor trick or a form of intrusive mind reading, but rather a sophisticated direct communication between your integrated unconscious and theirs. Because you have had the courage to face your own darkness, your spirit has become a clear mirror that naturally reflects the truth back to those around you. The experience can be disorienting at first because you start to see the invisible threads of why behind every human interaction. When someone speaks to you with hidden resentment or masked insecurity, you don't just hear their words. You feel the vibration of their unhealed trauma. As the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once observed, invisible threads are the strongest ties. And in your awakened state, these threads become visible, allowing you to witness the complex web of human motivation. This heightened sensitivity means you can no longer be easily deceived, but it also means you carry the heavy responsibility of knowing things that others are not yet ready to acknowledge. You might find yourself sitting across from a friend and sensing a deep, unspoken grief that contradicts their cheerful demeanor, or walking into a business meeting and feeling the jagged edges of ego and fear vibrating in the air. This is the burden and the beauty of possessing spiritual wisdom. You are witnessing the raw, unfiltered truth of the human condition, seeing the unconscious as clearly as if it were written in bold letters across a person's forehead. Navigating this reality requires a new level of emotional maturity and energetic boundaries, as you are essentially walking through a world of walking wounded. It is vital to remember the words of Carl Jung, who famously stated, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." When you perceive the shadows in others, it is not an invitation to judge them, but an opportunity to practice a higher form of compassion. You begin to understand that most people are not bad, but are simply acting out of ancient unconscious scripts they haven't yet learned to rewrite. By staying centered in your own light, you provide a stable frequency that can, in time, help others feel safe enough to bring their own shadows into the light of awareness. You become a silent witness to the hidden struggle of the soul, moving through life with a quiet authority that comes from seeing the world exactly as it is, rather than how it pretends to be. This profound clarity is the hallmark of a truly awakened spirit, transforming every interaction into a sacred moment of truth. If you believe you are called to this level of awakening, repeat after me. I receive this spiritual insight. It is meant for my journey, and I trust my inner vision completely. 4. The collapse of linear time. The traditional perception of linear time, a rigid, one-way street stretching from a distant past to an imagined future, is one of the most sophisticated illusions maintained by the human ego. For those undergoing a profound spiritual awakening, this artificial structure begins to crumble, replaced by the breathtaking realization that time is not a sequence, but a vast, interconnected landscape. In the realm of high spirituality, you move beyond the ticking of the clock and enter the eternal now, a state of consciousness where the boundaries between was, is, and will be become beautifully transparent. This experience is often described as standing at the center of a great sphere where every point on the surface is equally accessible, allowing you to perceive multiple temporal layers simultaneously rather than one isolated moment after another. As this internal shift takes hold, the past is no longer a collection of closed chapters, and the future is no longer a locked door. Instead, they become living frequencies that you can sense and interact with in the present. This profound collapse of boundaries often manifests as knowing a future outcome with absolute certainty, not because you are guessing, but because you are resonating with a version of reality that already exists in the tapestry of the now. Similarly, past memories may surge forward with such vivid intensity that they feel as if they are occurring in real time, offering you the chance to bring healing and wisdom to your younger self. To understand this, imagine the ego's view of time as a person looking through a small knothole in a fence, seeing only one flickering image at a time as it passes by. The spiritually awake person, however, climbs to the top of the fence and sees the entire parade from start to finish, realizing that the beginning and the end are part of the same magnificent movement. Moving deeper into this awareness, you begin to see that the anxiety of running out of time is merely a symptom of being disconnected from your true nature. When you reside in the eternal now, the pressure to achieve and the fear of missing out begin to dissolve, as you realize that nothing is ever truly lost in a universe that forgets nothing. This transition requires a radical surrender of the mind's need to categorize and label every second, inviting you to float in the current of existence rather than trying to swim against it. This shift is much like a river that believes it is a separate entity until it reaches the sea, only to discover that it has always been part of the vast, timeless ocean. By embracing this collapse of linear time, you step into a higher dimension of spirituality, where life is no longer a race toward a finish line, but an infinite celebration of being, where every breath is a portal to the absolute, and every moment contains the entirety of existence. 5. Encounters with autonomous archetypes. As you traverse the profound path of spirituality, you eventually reach a threshold where the boundaries of your individual ego begin to dissolve, revealing a landscape inhabited by psychological forces that exist entirely independently of your conscious will. This stage of spiritual development is marked by encounters with what are known as autonomous archetypes, entities like the wise old man, the great mother, or the formidable shadow, which possess their own distinct intelligence and agendas. You must understand that these are not mere products of a wandering mind or simple hallucinations. They are autonomous complexes that emerge from the deepest layers of the collective unconscious to act as mirrors and mentors. When these figures manifest in the theater of your dreams or the stillness of deep meditation, they do not ask for your permission to exist. nor do they conform to your personal desires. Instead, they stand before you as objective realities of the inner world, speaking truths that your conscious mind may have spent a lifetime avoiding. Engaging with these independent forces requires a radical shift in how you perceive your own identity, forcing you to acknowledge that you are not the sole occupant of your psyche. You might find yourself locked in a silent dialogue with a figure who carries the weight of 1,000 years of wisdom, or perhaps you will feel the piercing gaze of the shadow, reflecting the unrefined aspects of your character that demand integration. These encounters are a hallmark of true awakening because they strip away the illusion of total control, replacing it with a sacred partnership between your everyday self and the eternal structures of the human spirit. Rather than dismissing these experiences as internal noise, you learn to treat them as vital transmissions from the universe itself. Every interaction with an archetype serves to refine your soul, grinding away the superficialities of your personality until only the essence remains. The beauty of this journey lies in the realization that you are being guided by a wisdom that far exceeds your intellectual capacity. These autonomous figures act as the architects of your transformation, appearing at the exact moment you are ready to face a new level of truth. As you cultivate the courage to listen to these inner voices, you begin to see that your spirituality is not just a personal hobby, but a participation in a cosmic process of evolution. You are being called to harmonize with the other within you, bridging the gap between the finite and the infinite. By honoring these independent intelligences, you move beyond the limitations of the self and step into a reality where every dream and every moment of stillness becomes a classroom for the divine. This is the ultimate testament to your growth, the ability to stand face to face with the powerful archetypes of the soul and emerge not shattered, but whole, carrying the light of their timeless wisdom into your waking life. Don't forget to subscribe for more wisdom on navigating the profound mysteries of the spiritual awakening journey. 6. Realization of the self, the totality. As you navigate the profound transition from a life governed by the ego to one illuminated by spiritual wisdom, you begin to experience a shift so radical that it feels like waking up from a dream you didn't know you were dreaming. For most of your existence, you have likely moved through the world believing you were a separate entity, a lone individual defined by a name, a set of memories, and a collection of physical boundaries. But this awakening reveals that such an identity is merely a mask worn by the soul. This process of realization is the movement from the ego, the small I that seeks control and fears loss, to the self, which represents the totality of consciousness itself. It is the moment you stop seeing yourself as a single, fragile wave tossed about by the wind and start recognizing that you are, and have always been, the entire ocean. As the philosopher Alan Watts beautifully articulated, you are an aperture through which the universe is looking at and exploring itself. And once you grasp this truth, the fear of insignificance begins to dissolve into a sense of eternal belonging. This is not just a philosophical concept, but a lived reality where the walls between inside and outside begin to crumble, leaving you with the startling awareness that everything you observe is a reflection of your own deeper essence. The journey into the totality of the self demands that you release the tight grip of the personality you have spent years constructing, which can often feel like a form of death to the ego, even as it serves as a rebirth for the spirit. You start to perceive a hidden harmony in the chaos of daily life, understanding that the challenges you face are not obstacles to your path, but are the path itself, designed to refine your awareness and deepen your connection to the source. This expanded state of being allows you to tap into a reservoir of peace that is independent of external circumstances, because when you identify with the whole, no single part can truly threaten your core. Rumi once reminded us that you are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. A sentiment that perfectly captures the paradox of the spiritually awake person who remains in a human body while simultaneously encompassing the infinite. You begin to see the same light shining through every person you meet, every animal you encounter, and every leaf that falls, leading to a profound sense of compassion that transcends mere sympathy. This is the ultimate marker of your evolution, the transition from being a victim of life to becoming a conscious co-creator with life, where your every thought and action is infused with the weight of the eternal. As this spiritual wisdom takes root within you, the pursuit of worldly status and temporary pleasures loses its luster, replaced by an insatiable thirst for the truth of what you are beyond the physical form. You learn to sit in the silence of your own being and find it populated by the presence of the entire universe, a realization that brings a quiet, unshakable joy that the world can neither give nor take away. This state of totality means that you are no longer searching for meaning, because you have become the meaning itself, moving through time as a witness to the unfolding of a cosmic dance that has no beginning and no end. You realize that your life is not a series of random events, but a masterful orchestration of consciousness. And by surrendering the ego's need to dictate the outcome, you enter into a state of flow where the power of the self can move through you without resistance. This is the peak of the human experience, the moment where the seeker disappears and only the seeking remains, revealing that the destination you were looking for was the very ground you were standing on all along. 7. The isolation and universality of awakening. The journey of spirituality often begins with a profound sense of displacement, a feeling that the reality you once accepted as absolute has suddenly become transparent and thin. This process of a spiritual awakening is inherently paradoxical because, while it connects you to the heartbeat of the universe, it simultaneously plunges you into a deep, jarring isolation. When you begin to perceive the hidden dimensions of existence or feel the weight of an interconnected world, these experiences often sound like a form of madness to those who remain tethered to the surface of life, because the unawakened mind lacks the framework to process such expanded awareness. The seeker is often forced into a protective silence, nursing visions and insights that feel too sacred or too insane to be shared at a dinner table or in a casual conversation. This solitude can be heavy, creating a rift between you and your old social circles. But it is a necessary crucible for the soul to find its own voice without the interference of external noise. To navigate this loneliness, one must realize that these experiences are not a sign of a breaking mind, but rather a blossoming spirit, that has been documented throughout human history. The psychologist Carl Jung famously discovered that these internal shifts are not isolated incidents of the modern ego, but are universal archetypes that have surfaced across every culture and era since the dawn of consciousness. Whether through the metaphors of ancient mythology or the ecstatic visions of mystics, the path you are walking has been trodden by millions before you, meaning your private madness is actually a homecoming to a collective human heritage. This realization acts as a bridge, turning your individual isolation into a shared, timeless solidarity with the seekers of the past. It transforms the fear of being different into the comfort of being part of a vast, invisible lineage of awakened souls. As this connection to the universal deepens, the true challenge shifts from surviving the isolation to mastering the art of integration. The ultimate goal of this spiritual awakening is never to become a special entity who floats above the struggles of humanity or looks down upon the unawakened from a pedestal of perceived enlightenment. Such a pursuit only serves the ego and further separates the seeker from the truth of oneness. Instead, the wisdom gained in the heights must be brought back down to the earth, infused into the way you speak, work, and love. It is about taking these expanded perceptions, the sudden bursts of empathy, the awareness of energy, and the clarity of purpose, and weaving them into the fabric of your daily life so that you can live more authentically. By grounding the divine in the mundane, you stop being a stranger in a strange land and start becoming a living testament to the beauty of a soul that has finally woken up to its own reality. If this journey resonates with you, please comment, "I am connected" below. Your words help us build a bridge through the isolation of awakening. As we've explored today, the path of spiritual awakening isn't always easy, but the challenges you face are clear signs of your inner growth and alignment with a higher purpose. Remember, you aren't alone in these experiences. They are milestones on your journey toward deeper clarity and peace. If this message resonated with you, please give this video a like and share it with someone who might need these insights today. To continue this journey with us, subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom and turn on notifications so you never miss our upcoming videos. Thank you for watching, and stay mindful on your path. 8 signs you have the rarest psychological type on Earth. The only true journey is the one within. This powerful quote by Rainer Maria Rilke perfectly captures the essence of what we're discussing today. Have you ever felt like you see the world differently? Like your emotional depth and intuition set you apart? In this video, 8 signs you have the rarest psychological type on Earth. We're going to illuminate the path for those unique souls, revealing the traits that not only make you rare, but also hold the key to profound personal growth and lasting happiness. If you recognize yourself in these signs, I encourage you to apply these principles to your daily life. They are a roadmap for living in alignment with your truest self. Watch until the end and let me know in the comments below. Which of these signs resonates most deeply with your own inner world? Let's start the journey. 1. Sacred curiosity and radical questioning. The rarest psychological type is defined by a deep-seated sacred curiosity and radical questioning. an unwavering orientation toward the hidden meaning in life, systems, and relationships, refusing to settle for surface-level explanations or the passive comfort of conformity. Unlike those who readily accept established norms, you feel a potent inner urge to challenge the why, look behind appearances, and intuit the truths obscured by everyday behavior. This isn't defiance. It's the signature of an exceptional mind, mirroring Carl Jung's transcendent function, the rare capacity to hold paradox and perceive uncomfortable truths that others avoid. Your being is intrinsically wired for the pursuit of meaning, placing it far above fleeting comfort, which is why shallow social rules or inauthentic belief systems cannot fully capture you. Your inner world demands genuine resonance, rejecting borrowed conclusions and inherited ideas. Even under pressure to conform, a persistent inner voice asserts that there is always something more. This tension between the visible and the deeply felt is the birthplace of your spirituality and accelerated spiritual development, as your questions serve not to destroy, but to profoundly awaken, simultaneously driving an inward scrutiny of your motives and an upward reach for higher consciousness. This continuous, intense inquiry grants you an almost intuitive awareness, allowing you to easily detect emotional undercurrents, systemic tensions, and hidden relational motives. Your perceptive depth goes beyond suspicion. Your awareness naturally extends past the veneer, allowing you to feel shifts before they are verbalized and recognize deep misalignment even when things appear stable. This defines your connections. You seek foundational meaning and authentic truth over convenience and performance. Shallow interactions are immensely draining, while deep, soul-to-soul exchanges are restorative, confirming your psyche's design for depth. This same sacred curiosity also turns inward, fostering intense self-reflection, emotional honesty, and consistent growth. You question the source of your feelings and the root of repetitive life cycles. True transformation begins here because you do not evade discomfort. You study it, embodying the Jungian task of holding light and shadow, confidence and doubt simultaneously. This capacity to inhabit the space between opposites is your mechanism for continuous evolution, preventing stagnation in fear or illusion. However, this depth brings its own burden. At times, your mind feels heavy from relentless reflection, your heart weary from emotional intensity, and you may experience loneliness when few speak your inner language. When insight lacks grounding, you risk succumbing to overthinking or spiritual isolation. Yet, this intense questioning is your compass, the force that keeps you aligned with growth even when you feel lost. It explains your deep attraction to psychology, symbolism, and the unseen forces of human behavior. The ultimate truth is that minds like yours are meant not to repeat, but to refine truth through lived experience. You are here to challenge unconscious patterns, embody insight, and transform confusion into clarity. The key is to trust your questions, seek truth without external validation, allow growth without guilt, balance reflection with rest, and recognize that your sacred curiosity is not a burden. It is the potent engine of your spiritual development and the essential gateway to an embodied, transformative spirituality. 2. Supernatural emotional depth. You do not simply feel emotions, you navigate them like vast oceans, each wave carrying layers of meaning that most people will never notice. And this is why your emotional depth often appears supernatural to those around you. What others call mood or sensitivity unfolds within you as a full psychological symphony, where every subtle shift in energy becomes a message your inner world knows how to translate. You sense unspoken intentions, hidden emotional tones, and the quiet truths buried beneath someone's carefully crafted words, not because you are unstable, but because you are exquisitely tuned into the deeper layers of human experience. Carl Jung called this profound inner sensitivity the doorway to the objective psyche, the realm where emotions are not just personal reactions, but windows into universal patterns of truth. Your feelings do not simply pass through you. They speak to you, guide you, and sometimes warn you, which is why you often notice emotional changes or energetic discomfort long before anyone else realizes something is wrong. This depth can make you appear intense or mysterious, but in reality, it is emotional sophistication, your ability to perceive meaning beyond the surface. And yet, this rare sensitivity often pulls you naturally towards spirituality because you have always sensed that life moves through invisible layers, that every emotion has a spiritual echo, and that every connection carries energetic information beneath the physical interaction. As you grow, this sensitivity begins shaping your spiritual awakening, helping you recognize that inner guidance is not imagination, but intuition sharpened through emotional intelligence. You have known for a long time that what you feel is real, even when the world encourages you to numb it or doubt it. Your emotional depth becomes a compass pointing you toward alignment, truth, and integrity, and pulling you away from environments, people, and energies that are out of resonance. This is why your presence often feels comforting yet powerful. People feel seen by you in a way they cannot explain, because you perceive the soul behind the behavior, the intention beneath the action, the wound beneath the words. But your depth has also shaped your story. You may have been told you were too sensitive, too emotional, or overthinking, when in truth, you were simply processing the world at a greater vibrational frequency than those around you. You learned early that others do not feel with the same intensity, and you may have dimmed your own emotional truth to make them comfortable. Yet, as Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And who you truly are is someone whose emotional complexity is not a flaw, but an extraordinary gift, an inner instrument tuned to the frequencies most people never hear. When you honor this depth instead of suppressing it, your emotions refine into wisdom, your intuition strengthens, your self-awareness sharpens, and the world within you becomes a powerful source of clarity, perception, and spiritual strength. This is the silent brilliance behind your emotional depth. It is not chaos, but intelligence, not weakness, but refined perception, not instability, but an innate connection to truth, one that continues guiding you deeper into your spirituality and your ongoing spiritual awakening. Comment below. I honor my emotional depth. If you recognize this rare sensitivity within yourself and are ready to embrace the unique gift Carl Jung spoke about. 3. Continuous evolution and outgrowing the familiar. You repeatedly outgrow people, places, and even the versions of yourself you once believed would last forever. And this constant shedding is not instability. It is the natural rhythm of transformation that Carl Jung described as psychological death and rebirth. Each time you evolve, something within you must quietly end so something deeper can begin. And that process is rarely comfortable. You begin to feel that you can no longer return to spaces that once felt familiar because they now require you to dim your truth, soften your awareness, or pretend to be smaller than you have become. What once felt like home now feels restrictive, and this inner conflict is one of the clearest signatures of a rare psychological type. As your awareness expands, your tolerance for what is false, stagnant, or misaligned disappears. And this is where many relationships, environments, and even identities begin to fall away. People who once understood you may no longer recognize you, not because you are lost, but because you have changed at a level they cannot yet follow. Jung once said, "What looks like a breakdown is often a breakthrough." And this truth becomes visible in your life as cycles of ending and renewal that shape your character again and again. Every time you rise into a new level of clarity, you lose access to the world you came from. And that loss can feel painful, confusing, and deeply lonely. Yet this loneliness is not emptiness. It is the space where your new self is being formed. You are no longer able to bend your values just to preserve connection. And you no longer have the ability to ignore what your soul now sees. Your growth becomes irreversible. Once a truth is seen, it cannot be unseen. Once your inner world shifts, your outer world must eventually follow. This is why others may resist your change, judge it, or misunderstand it. Your evolution reflects what they may still be avoiding within themselves, and not everyone is ready to face that reflection. This is where spiritual wisdom quietly weaves into psychological transformation. You are not simply changing for ambition, success, or appearance. You are changing because something inside you demands alignment between who you are becoming and how you are living. You would rather experience discomfort than live in contradiction. You would rather walk alone than walk falsely. This is the cost of deep awareness and the quiet mark of a rare inner structure. As Carl Jung warned, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And that privilege often arrives wrapped in the pain of outgrowing what once felt safe. Each time you move forward, you leave behind not only people and places, but entire identities, old fears, old beliefs, old self-definitions that no longer hold your truth. Your life begins to feel less like a straight road and more like a series of initiations. Endings arrive without asking permission. New beginnings rise before you feel ready. Yet with every cycle, your inner authority strengthens, your clarity deepens, and your attachment to illusion weakens. You slowly stop fearing loss because you finally understand that every loss has been shaping your ability to live authentically. At a certain point, you no longer ask why doors keep closing behind you. You understand that they close because you no longer belong in the rooms they lead to. This awareness is not only psychological, it is spiritual. True spiritual wisdom is not about staying the same while speaking higher truths. It is about allowing your entire being to transform in alignment with what you now see as real. And the more you honor this inner evolution, the more you realize that your constant change is not chaos. It is the quiet proof of an awakened inner compass, guided not by comfort, but by truth. As Carl Jung revealed through the depths of the human psyche. 4. Conscious independence and self-built identity. You possess a rare psychological blueprint defined by profound independence and an identity forged entirely from within. This self-reliance wasn't a choice of comfort, but a necessity born from adversity, forcing you to cultivate an inner strength long before external validation was an option. Rather than seeking approval, you build your core self layer by layer through relentless self-reflection and quiet endurance, embarking on what Carl Jung called individuation, the challenging path toward wholeness that most consciously avoid. While others learn to belong by fitting in, you learn to thrive by standing alone. This separation didn't harden you. It meticulously refined you, transforming necessity into clear awareness and isolation into centeredness. Your self-identity isn't assembled from social roles or fleeting trends, but permanently forged through lived experience and conscious choice. This is the clearest sign of your rare type. Your stability is built from the inside out, the true foundation of your spiritual development. This independence carries a powerful gravity. Though you may speak softly, your presence feels deeply grounded. You do not cling to others for completion, having mastered the truth that wholeness must be cultivated internally. While many search frantically in external mirrors, you are already guided by a precise inner compass, shaped by struggle and reflection, aligning your life with deep spiritual wisdom. As Jung observed, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, a truth you didn't wait for permission to pursue. Life put you on this path early, fostering discernment over dependency and genuine depth over imitation. This internal anchoring makes you not cold, but resiliently self-possessed. Your independence is the highest form of connection. You seek to share your completeness, not fill a void. This very self-possession is why people are drawn to you, yet simultaneously unsettled. Your self-built identity quietly reflects the internal work they have yet to face, exposing the fragility of unconscious living without a single word. The deeper you travel this path of individuation, the more apparent it becomes that your psychological strength is inherently spiritual. You stop looking outward for definition and start listening to your intuition and conscience, a truth felt, not seen. This steady courage to stand in your unique truth is where true spiritual awakening begins, making your life a silent, powerful expression of timeless wisdom. Affirm your inner strength by commenting below, "I am sovereign in my identity." Let this be your reminder that your independence and self-built identity are guiding you toward your highest truth. 5. Hyperperceptive intuition. Your hyperperceptive intuition gives you an ability that most people will never fully understand, because you do not simply observe the world, you feel it. You sense the subtle shifts in tone, the tightening of someone's jaw, the hesitation behind a forced smile, and the unspoken truth hiding beneath polished words. This is not overthinking. It is what Carl Jung described as perception via the unconscious, a natural and immediate recognition of patterns that others step over blindly. You pick up emotional undercurrents in silence, detect mismatched energy before conflict appears, and notice the tiniest fractures in someone's behavior long before they become visible to the rest of the world. And while people may misunderstand this depth as suspicion or sensitivity, you intuitively know it is far more precise than that, because your mind works in layers. What others hear as conversation, you experience as information woven with nuance, tension, and meaning that lives between the lines. Yet this level of awareness, when left unprotected, can slowly drain you from the inside out, because feeling so much requires boundaries that most people with your rare psychological type never learned to set early in life, especially when they were conditioned to be the healer, the listener, the emotional anchor for everyone else. This intuitive gift becomes heavy not because it is wrong, but because it is constant. You absorb the unresolved grief of a friend when they step into the room. You sense the disappointment someone carries even when they say they are fine. You feel the shift in someone's energy the moment they lose trust. And you detect misalignment in relationships long before the breakup arrives. And while all of this gives you profound psychological insight, it also becomes a silent burden, because your nervous system is processing information that others are not aware they are even expressing. This is why emotional burnout appears in your life not as sudden collapse, but as slow erosion. Too much empathy, too many unspoken responsibilities, too much merging with people who never realized how deeply you felt them. Jung warned that without conscious boundaries, the unconscious becomes a force that overwhelms rather than guides. And this is precisely the tension you live through, sensing everything, yet not always knowing how to filter what isn't yours. Here is where spirituality becomes essential, not as belief, but as a practice of self-preservation, because your spiritual awakening begins the moment you realize that your intuition is not meant to carry people, but to clarify your own path. As you grow into this awareness, you start recognizing that your intuition is not random. It is a compass. It tells you when a room is unsafe before your logic catches up. It warns you when someone's words do not match their energy. It guides you toward people whose presence feels like alignment and distances you from those whose presence feels like heaviness. With time, you learn that not every emotional signal requires intervention. Not every tension requires healing. And not every sorrow you sense belongs in your hands. You begin to separate empathy from responsibility, compassion from self-abandonment, and awareness from absorption. And once you understand that your sensitivity is not weakness, but refined perception, you stop apologizing for noticing what others overlook. You stop shrinking yourself to make people comfortable. You stop explaining how you know things you shouldn't know. Instead, you trust the quiet truth rising inside you, the same truth that Jung spent his life studying. When the unconscious speaks, the wise learn to listen. And in honoring this rare gift with stronger boundaries, clearer intuition, and deeper self-respect, you transform your hyper-perceptive nature from emotional exhaustion into spiritual clarity, allowing your inner world to become not a sponge for others, but a sanctuary for yourself. 6. Intense craving for meaning and authenticity. You carry an intense craving for meaning and authenticity that quietly governs the way you think, feel, and move through the world. And this is why you cannot tolerate inauthenticity in any form. Shallow goals feel empty to you. Surface-level conversations feel exhausting, and unaligned paths feel almost painful to follow because your inner world demands truth, coherence, and depth. You are not satisfied with appearances or borrowed identities. You want what is real beneath the surface. This inner demand is not something you learned. It is built into your psychological structure, and it constantly pulls you toward alignment between who you are inside and how you live on the outside. Because you live with this level of inner integrity, you naturally reject what is false without needing to argue or attack it. You may simply lose interest, withdraw your energy, or quietly choose a different path. Yet even in your silence, your presence has an effect. Without intending to, you challenge others to confront their own masks, because your refusal to participate in illusion highlights where others are still pretending. In this way, you function as what can only be described as an evolutionary catalyst. Change is stirred in your presence, not because you demand it, but because your way of being exposes what is misaligned. As Carl Jung expressed so powerfully, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And this truth is not just an idea for you. It is a lived experience that shapes your daily choices. Your devotion to truth often places you on a different rhythm from the world around you. You may feel out of place in environments that reward performance over substance or status over sincerity. What excites others may leave you cold, while what truly moves you is meaning, purpose, and inner coherence. This is where your path of spirituality and spiritual development deepens, not through rituals alone, but through the constant inner refinement of values, motives, and identity. You are not driven to accumulate more masks. You are driven to remove them. Over time, your standards in relationships, work, and even self-expression become more precise, not because you are becoming rigid, but because your clarity is sharpening. This clarity, however, can be misunderstood. Some may see your intensity as judgment, your distance as coldness, or your silence as superiority. In truth, your intensity is simply devotion. Your distance is discernment, and your silence is often self-protection. You are not rejecting people. You are rejecting falseness. And this rejection is not destructive. It is surgical. It removes what does not belong so that what is true can finally breathe. Each time you choose alignment over comfort or truth over approval, something old dissolves and something more essential begins to take shape. Your life, therefore, becomes less about fitting into the world as it is and more about embodying the deeper potential of who you are becoming. Growth for you does not feel like climbing higher. It feels like going deeper. It feels like shedding, refining, and remembering. You begin to realize that your sensitivity to falseness is not a weakness to be corrected, but a gift to be mastered. It protects you from wasting years on what does not matter. It guides you toward relationships built on truth rather than performance. It anchors you in a form of spirituality that is lived through integrity, not merely spoken through beliefs. And through this discipline of inner honesty, you quietly encourage others to begin their own transformation simply by standing in what is real. Don't forget to subscribe for more wisdom on transforming your search for meaning into true inner fulfillment. 7. Transformational presence. Your presence carries a quiet gravity that few can name but many can feel. A gentle yet undeniable pull that makes people open up, soften, and unravel truths they have kept buried for years. Because something about the way you listen without judgment, without rushing, without needing to prove anything, creates an atmosphere where the soul finally exhales. Carl Jung called this the helper syndrome, a rare psychological pattern found in those whose empathy is so deep and whose spirituality is so instinctive that transformation happens around them almost effortlessly. You don't force change. You don't preach change. You simply embody a stillness that invites others to find themselves again, as if your energy quietly tells them, it's safe now. You can come home to yourself. And yet, this powerful gift often begins as a subtle pattern you don't even notice at first. Strangers confide in you within minutes. Friends tell you their darkest truths with trembling voices, and people who usually hide behind emotional armor suddenly break open in your presence. They might say, I don't know why I'm telling you this. And the truth is, they don't, but their subconscious does. Your presence feels like a sanctuary, a warm room in the middle of a storm, a soft ground where their defenses melt and their real selves step forward. This is the mark of someone deep in the process of spiritual awakening, someone whose inner clarity and emotional intelligence naturally extend into the outer world. People feel lighter after talking to you, not because you solved their problems, but because your calmness reorganizes their chaos. Like two chemical substances meeting, as Jung famously said, if there is any reaction, both are transformed. And with you, there is always a reaction gentle, healing, and often life-changing. But with this gift comes a quiet burden, one that grows heavier if you don't learn the spiritual wisdom hidden underneath. When you hold space so deeply for others, you risk becoming their emotional anchor, the person they lean on for stability, clarity, and meaning. And while your empathy is expansive, it is not infinite. Over time, you may notice your energy fading after long conversations, your thoughts sinking under the emotional weight you've absorbed, your spirit becoming quieter, not in peace, but in exhaustion. This is where discernment becomes essential. You are here to guide, not to carry, to reflect, not to absorb, to support, not to lose yourself inside someone else's inner storm. Without boundaries, the helper becomes the one who needs help, not because they are weak, but because they gave too much without realizing their own needs. As your spirituality deepens, you learn to distinguish between being present and being consumed. You begin to understand that true service does not wound the servant, and real compassion does not require self-sacrifice. You start recognizing the moments when someone seeks your presence not to heal, but to escape their own responsibility. The moments when silence is wiser than advice. The moments when walking away is more loving than staying. And with this awareness, your transformational presence evolves into something even stronger, an energy that heals without draining, that guides without rescuing, that empowers without absorbing the other person's shadows. Your role changes from emotional sponge to conscious mirror, from quiet caretaker to awakened soul who knows how to hold space without losing yourself inside it. And in that shift, you discover the rarest truth of all. Your presence transforms others most powerfully when you are also fully present for yourself. To honor your transformational presence, declare it with confidence. Comment below, I rise and transform, to affirm your growth and inspire others to awaken their power too. 8. Deep inner sense of purpose, even if undefined. You feel a quiet but persistent pull towards something meaningful that you cannot yet fully explain. And this feeling is neither random nor driven by ego, but rises from a deeper place within you. Carl Jung described this mysterious force as potential-seeking expression, a truth that lives in your soul long before your mind can give it a name. When you ignore this inner calling, life may begin to feel strangely empty, heavy with anxiety, or lacking direction, even when everything on the surface appears successful. Yet when you begin to live in harmony with it, a subtle but powerful sense of peace and fulfillment starts to grow. Not because all your questions are answered, but because your inner and outer worlds begin moving in the same direction through spirituality and spiritual development. This inner purpose often reveals itself through restlessness, deep sensitivity to meaning, and an unshakable sense that you are meant for more than survival, routines, or shallow ambition. You may feel different from others, not because you are better, but because you are wired to search beneath the surface of life. The discomfort you experience when living out of alignment is not a weakness. It is a signal from your psyche that something essential is being ignored. Jung believed that when this inner voice is suppressed, the soul suffers, and that suffering often shows up as emotional fatigue, dissatisfaction without a clear cause, or the haunting feeling that your true life has not yet fully begun. As you begin to listen inwardly, even in small ways, you may notice gentle shifts unfolding. Your priorities start to change. Your relationships transform, and your choices become guided more by inner truth than by external validation. What once felt like confusion begins to reveal itself as preparation. What once felt like weakness becomes a pathway to depth, and what once felt like loneliness becomes space for authenticity. You are no longer driven by the need to impress, but by the desire to become real. Peace does not come from certainty, but from sincerity. It does not come from control, but from trust. It does not come from perfection, but from honest participation in your own becoming. Your purpose does not arrive as a loud revelation or a single dramatic moment. More often, it appears as a direction rather than a destination, a way of being rather than a status or title. It guides you through intuition, moments of discomfort, unexpected synchronicities, and quiet inner resonance. As you follow these signals, your outer world slowly reshapes itself to mirror the truth you are discovering within. You may not immediately gain clarity about where the path will lead, but you gain something far more powerful, a sense of coherence, a feeling that your thoughts, values, and actions are finally aligned. The deeper message is clear. Your inner calling is real, even when it feels undefined. And ignoring it breeds anxiety, while honoring it cultivates peace. Discomfort often acts as a compass rather than a flaw, and true fulfillment grows from alignment rather than achievement. Your spiritual development unfolds not through force, pressure, or comparison, but through quiet awareness, courage, and steady attention to what your soul has been trying to express all along. In the end, discovering that you may carry one of the rarest psychological types on earth is not about feeling superior. It is about understanding your depth, your sensitivity, and your unique responsibility to the world, as Carl Jung so beautifully revealed through his wisdom. If these 8 signs resonate with your inner life, it may be a reminder that your way of seeing, feeling, and thinking is not meant to be hidden, but honored and refined through self-awareness and conscious growth. If you found value in this message, please like the video, share it with someone who needs this insight, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more deep psychological and spiritual teachings. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming videos on Carl Jung, self-discovery, and inner awakening.